besties, did you miss me? Because I did. If you're new, welcome. My name is BLACSIREN, and if you're my old friend, long time no see. How are we doing today? How's our 2023 going so far? Let me know in the comments. Last year, I started talking about crime cases, and ever since then, I've been receiving comments like, Siren, can you do a Chinese case? Let's talk about the Chinese case. As always, when you ring the bell, I shall deliver. For the first video of 2023, we're going to talk about the Hello Kitty murder case. So, Hello Kitty. You know, every time I see this name or the characters from that cartoon, I think about this case. And did you know that my city actually has the one and only Hello Kitty amusement park in China? I know, isn't that weird? I've never been there because I don't really like Hello Kitty. I just never understood that bitch, but I know there are a lot of girls, especially little girls, they love Hello Kitty. But I digress. Growing up, I've always known of it, but I didn't know what actually went down in that story. I only knew there was a murder case that had involved with a Hello Kitty doll. So curiosity got the best of me and I did some research. And let me tell you, bitch, I was petrified. But before this video starts, I'm going to do a disclaimer because today's video is a lot. Warning. The following content may contain explicit language and details of murder scenes that may be harmful or distressing to some audience. This video is only for educational, entertaining purposes and to raise awareness. Viewer discretion is advised. In May of 1999, a 14-year-old girl made her way to a Hong Kong police station. She told the officers that for the past couple of weeks, she had been haunted by the ghost of a woman who had been incarcerated in an apartment, tied up by electrical wires and tortured to death. And obviously, the police didn't believe her. Imagine if a kid comes up to you and say the same shit. You'd be like, bitch, you're tripping out. They brushed her off, thought that she was lying, bullshitting she was just being a kid. But whatever she said definitely piqued their interest, so they went back to the place and discovered that the girl's dreams were, in fact, real nightmares. Fan Menyi. She was born in 1975 and she had a tragic childhood. Actually, her whole life was just poignant. She got abandoned by her family as a child, resulting her being raised in an all-girls orphanage. But by the age of 15, she got kicked out due to the age restriction. That led to her becoming homeless and addicted to drugs. I don't really know her educational backgrounds, but imagine being homeless at the age of 15. That's just fucked up. Back in the days in Hong Kong, there were a couple of levels when it comes to prostitution. Obviously, the lowest of the low is being a street prostitute. There's another one which is massage lady, and in Cantonese it's being called da te guat. And there's also escorts, high-end prostitutes. And you know what? The prostitution culture in Hong Kong actually still exists till this day. She eventually married to one of her clients and gave birth to a boy in 1988. The neighbor often described her husband as abusive towards her. They would report being woken up by sounds of the couple's fights and the child screaming and crying from their apartment. After the birth of her son, she decided to turn her life around in order to protect her son and provide him a safer life. She quit drugs and prostitution, got a job as a hostess at a brothel or a nightclub, if you want to put it nicely, and eventually left her violent husband. I mean, good for her. That took some courage. Despite that she's making less money, being a good mother was the priority, so she was happy and very proud of herself. But that didn't last long. Life doesn't always go hand in hand with our manifestations. In early 1997, Fan Menyi met a guy whose name is Tim Lo, who was 34 years old at the time. So apparently the picture that appears when you type the name Tim Lo is not actually him. As you can see from the picture on the right, this guy is holding a sign, and on the third line, it says Leen Wei instead of Tim Lo. That's just something I discovered when I was doing the research. I don't want to use the reference unless I'm 100% sure. Okay, back to the story, bitch. He was also a triad member. It's like a mafia thing because Hong Kong has the history of gangs Back in the day, it was a thing that those degenerates will join and participate in gang activities. They met at the club and discovered they had something in common, which is she was a prostitute and a drug addict, and he was a pimp and a drug dealer. In 1999, Aman was desperate for money, so she stole Timonlo's wallet, which contained about, say, Timon Gonzi. It was approximately around $500 at the time. So when he realized that, obviously he was pissed. He was like, 你個死八婆啊，咁多人唔偷你偷我，你係咪未死過一面牆啊? Well, he probably didn't say that. So he demanded the money in addition to a fee of 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. Okay, there was two sayings about why she stole the money. One was because she needed the money for hospital fees, and the other one was for drugs. So I'm not sure which one is true, and I'm not trying to put a false accusation on her. So I'm just gonna throw it out there, just so you know. Although she immediately returned the stolen money, she needed more time to secure the additional fee. As a punishment, she also enticed his henchmen. One is Leon Xingzhou, the other one is Leon Weilun, to kidnap her and forcing her into prostitution and take the money that she earned as payback for the cash that she now owed to him. On March 17th, 1999, Tsing Menlo and his henchmen soon decided that simply prostituting her wasn't going to be enough. So they began torturing her. They brought her to an empty apartment at number 31 Granville Road, which was located in Tingsha. So they tied her up and beat her. For over a month, they subjected her to various horrors like burning her skin, raping her, forcing her to consume human feces and drink urine. And at this point, it ain't about the money anymore. They were just fucking animals. According to one source, she was beaten by metal bars and sometimes while being strung up and used as a punching bag. On one occasion, Simila was kicking her head around 50 times, and they would put boiling oil, like hot boiling oil, into her mouth and rub chili oil and salt onto her wounds. Her legs and feet were burned with candles and hot plastic. Y'all know those white plastic tubes that people use for construction? I don't know what's the name of that, but like they were burning that hot tube. And just simply because she couldn't run away. She was forced to smile and say she enjoyed the beatings and the tortures. And if she refused to do that, they would give her even harsher punishment. Her body was covered with all the wounds, infections, blisters, oozing pus from all the sadistic and inhumane torture. You're probably gonna ask how come no one has ever heard anything and reported to the police? Because that apartment building, at least most of the units, were vacant. So no one was actually living there. And that apartment building was actually owned by a mafia boss, Beiho. He was one of the infamous and powerful drug dealers in Hong Kong back in the days, and I'm pretty sure a lot of fucked up shit that had happened in that apartment building. As a matter of fact, it was actually reported to the police because somebody was complaining about the foul smell coming out of that apartment building. So they went up to the floor and checked, but the police thought it was just decomposed trash and vegetables. So they didn't do anything. They just went there, checked, and left. I'm gonna put on some lashes and do the final touch on my eyes. I'll be right back. And now, let's circle back to the 14-year-old girl who went to the police in the beginning. Her name is Afon, and not only she was responsible for turning the tortures in, but she was also one herself. She was labeled as the girlfriend of Timenlo, but the girlfriend here is a loose term. She was probably one of his prostitutes. Because remember I had told you he was a pimp? Or she could be the target of grooming. At one point when Afon was visiting them in the apartment, she witnessed it when Timelo was kicking the victim 50 times in the head. And she joined in. I actually don't know how deep she participated in that event because as a part of her plea deal, she was protected by the police. So that's why there wasn't that much extensive information about her, who was only 14 years old at the time. After months of torturing, family succumbed to her wounds on April 15th, 1999, and the three killers, Timon-Law and his henchmen, they were arguing about how she died. They were arguing about Family actually died from the overdose of methamphetamine that she administered herself instead of dying from the torture. But most experts argue that it was the injury that eventually killed her. Honestly, I wish she had died from overdosing because at least at that moment, she wasn't feeling any pain. Imagine dying from all the pain that has been accumulated and finally reached to the point that had killed her. That's just fucked up. After discovering that she passed away, the two henchmen moved her body to the bathtub and exsanguinated her and dismembered her with the saw. If you watch my videos, you know there's one word I fucking hate, which is torso. But there's another word I hate as much I hate the word torso. Exsanguination. It's just so gross. It's repulsive. Every time I hear this word exsanguination, I think about the pictures. It's gross. It's disgusting. Let me know in the comments if there's a word that you hate it so much. It could be any language. After they exsanguinated her and dismembered her with the saw, they cooked the individual pieces of her body to stop her from decomposing and emitting the smell of rotting flesh. Which, that doesn't make any sense to me, because if they're gonna discard the body regardless, cooked or not, the body will still decompose and rot. And it really doesn't matter whether you cook the body or not, unless they're trying to destroy the DNA so the police won't be able to identify who did it so they can get away with the murder. Then they sewed her boiled skull into an oversized Hello Kitty mermaid doll, and additionally they kept one of her teeth and several internal organs which they stored in a plastic bag. Honestly, I am surprised that they can sew. They kept something from the victim as trophies, as a lot of serial killers do. Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, they always do that. After they kill somebody, they will have a piece of them. They wanted to remind themselves, I killed somebody, now I have a piece of them. If that makes sense. On May 24th, 1999, after weeks of having nightmares, Afon couldn't take it anymore. That's when she went to the police station and confessed everything in exchange of her protection. Oh, she confessed everything. She detailed how these three animals brutally tortured and murdered the family. Because the whole case was extremely disturbing, many people refused to believe it was real. They thought it was just the media telling a lie. Tried to scare the fuck out of them. When the evidence covered by police, the truth came out, it definitely shook Hong Kong. The body part trophy from the victim was found in that apartment, and according to the forensic odontologist, there's actually a video on YouTube. I literally just watched that 2 days ago. The odontologist who worked on her case 2 decades ago came out and did a video, and he said when he saw the head, there was only half of it. There was no muscle, no jaw. The jaw was missing. And it was only half of the skull with only 2 teeth still attached. Like half of it. He also mentioned that the bloody Hello Kitty doll that has been going around on the internet for so many years, for over 20 years, it was actually not blood.
公仔好似滲咗啲紅色嘅血跡啦，咁應該係個屍體滲出嚟嘅啦，定係本身嘅污糟啫？污糟啫係嘛？污糟啫，你想像嚟睇。但係個頭應該都會有啲液體，唔會？冇晒啦嘛。啊冇晒啦，冇咗㗎啦嘛。
It was just dirt. Maybe it was just the filter, or the media was trying to, grab people's attention. And I don't think the killers actually went to the store and purchased the Hello Kitty doll. They probably just got that from the street. So it definitely made sense when the doll was dirty, but apparently it was not blood. It was just dirt. Unfortunately, due to the state of her remaining body parts, the police and the medical experts were not able to determine the cause of death. But there was no doubt that she had experienced indescribable torture, that the 3 men had inflicted much of the damage to her body, but there was no way to tell whether a drank with a drug overdose, or the torture actually caused the death. Isn't that fucked up? Honestly, I think that's what the killer wanted there, because that way they can get that sentence. And to be honest, I don't even know if she took the drug by herself or the killer did it. You know what I'm saying? On December 6, 2000, after trial which lasted over 6 weeks, as a result, the three were convicted not of murder but manslaughter. The jury ruled the remains were not sufficient to show whether the victim was murdered or died from a drug overdose. While the jury could not rule that these men intended to kill the victim, they did determine that she had died as a result of their abuse, and Afan was also testified at the trial in exchange for immunity. The judge sentenced the trio to life in prison with the possibility of parole, and he stated that never in Hong Kong in recent years that has the court ever heard of such cruelty, depravity, callousness, brutality, and violence and viciousness. And the psychiatric reports described them as remorseless, and there will be no review for parole for the next 20 years until 2020. Honestly, they're probably out and about now, and one of the henchmen, Leon Xingzhou, he actually appealed his sentence in 2014 and he got out early. But hear me out. He got arrested again, and he was sentenced to 12 months for sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl. Ew. And the apartment building which the crime took place was demolished in 2012, but it was rebuilt in 2016 and now is a hotel. It is just bonkers to me that the body was discovered over a month after the victim had killed, only because Afan's conscience was eating her alive. That's why she went to the police. But what if she never went to the police? Do you think they could get away with the murder? And ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of the Hello Kitty murder case. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you're having an amazing day. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and remember, be safe, vigilant, and take care.